Everybody, welcome to the show. Tuesday show. Jeff and Ron was here with you today. Contributor Ron Placone, of course. Welcome, man. Got another great show for you guys.
Hello.
Today. Hey. You got your Jimmy Dore shirt on?
I do. Yeah. I am wearing that shirt this morning.
Awesome.
I just had an Indie Bohemians interview, so I've been rocking in the studio all morning and catching up on some stuff because we had a live show last night. So, Monday was a pretty exhausting day.
For sure, man. Hey, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and our Patreon officially launched yesterday. Well, it launched a little while ago, but we officially started distributing some of the rewards.
Awesome.
Because our first cycle happened.
Awesome.
So that's been going on too. Yeah. So for everyone if anyone here is a Jimmy Dore patron, please, we appreciate your patience. I'm unrolling stuff as quickly as I can. And if you're supposed to get a T-shirt or a CD in the mail, I promise it is coming. But we just started yesterday, and we had a live show. So appreciate your patience, but you will be hearing something soon.
T-shirts are actually a great idea. I might have to look into that. Maybe we can talk after the show, get some details. Maybe I can get that working for the patrons here because I do want to do something special for you guys. I guess before we
the way it works, Jeff, I can give you some insider info now. You
Nice.
Contact a screen printing place, they print T-shirts for you, then they send them to you and you sell them.
Yeah, see, I don't know anything about this because I'm new. I'm new to this. I've never sold merchandise in my life, so I actually had no idea how it worked.
Well, surprise!
I'm new.
Do you think there was this mysterious thing you have to get a government license, dude that's selling T-shirts?
I don't know. I don't know this stuff. I need to hire some people to do shit for me and figure this stuff out because obviously it's way too hard. I never thought it would be this complicated.
What?
Who knew
Being
this
a
would be
content
complicated?
creator?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Who knew it would be this
I
complicated?
miss my old life.
I miss my old life where I didn't sell
My old life,
T-shirts.
and I could just file bankruptcy when things got tough. Miss that.
Yeah, I can't do that anymore. Speaking of patrons, I do want to give some patron shout-outs to you guys. A couple of names here. David Wilcoxon, Linda Taylor, The First Storm and the Last. Paul, I'm so sorry, Paul. I'm going to butcher your name. Ponomarenko. God, that's awful. Sorry about that. I'm bad with names. Jane Lucy, Linda Mitchell, Michael Cuomo, Sandy Lai, Mary Nielsen, and Karen Silt. Thank you to those patrons. You guys and gals are amazing. You're awesome. Thank you for supporting independent progressive media. So it means the world. So thank you. Okay, everybody else, please share the stream. Sharing is caring, of course. Tweet it out. Do whatever to get more viewers and stuff like that. So, all right, thanks everybody. Let's do a breakdown of what I'm going to talk about today, or what we're going to talk about today. We have more controversy at Fox News. Another person is out. We have MSNBC not being progressive. Surprise! Are you shocked at all, Ron?
They haven't been progressive in a long time.
In a long time, of course.
They've been corporate dem.
Yes. That's despite actually their ratings going up, which is weird. But they're moving in even more of a right-wing
We can talk about that.
We have Reince Priebus saying that Trump was basically looking into destroying the First Amendment. That's fantastic. The DNC. Are you familiar with the DNC, the lawsuit against the DNC from Bernie Sanders supporters?
I heard about it. The details are a bit I don't know the details offhand, but yeah, I mean I do remember hearing about it.
Well, we've got some of the DNC's defense on that, which is interesting.
Oh,
yeah,
love it.
We'll talk about that. Dianne Feinstein taking money from giant corporations. Gee, what a surprise. And well, that's pretty much the breakdown today. So we've got a lot of interesting things that we're going to talk about here in the show, Ron. So let's have some fun. Let's start out with big shakeup at Fox News, or I should say the continuing shakeup at Fox News. Now, Fox News' sexual harassment scandal has claimed yet another casualty. This time, and this is in multiple news reports, Bill Shine, former co-president of Fox News, recently resigned. He left the network on Monday amid accusations that he helped to cover up sexual harassment, as well as retaliating former employees who came forward with their own allegations. So that's fairly serious, right? Not only is it like cover up, but it's like retaliation. Fox News announced in a release on Monday that Shine had, quote, resigned and will leave the company after helping the transition over the next few weeks. Now, Rupert Murdoch, executive chairman of Fox News, Fox Business, and the parent company 21st Century Fox, called this, quote, a significant day for all at Fox News. Bill Shine has played a huge role in building Fox to its present position, Murdoch said in this network statement. Now, this comes just a couple of days after New York Magazine's Gabriel Sherman reported on Thursday that Murdoch's sons, James and Lachlan, CEO and co-chairman of 21st Century Fox, had refused Shine's request for a public statement of support. So Shine's like, hey, dude, I'm getting hammered with all these allegations. You going to come to my defense or what? No, we're not going to defend your ass. You're on your own, buddy. What do you think this is? Like, we're Fox News. We're not going to defend you anymore. Despite the fact that they defended Ailes, they defended O'Reilly for so many years. But again, now O'Reilly's out. Everything's changing, Ron. I'm scared.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's changing. I can't handle change. No, I'm kidding. I almost sounded like a conservative there.
Yeah, just a little bit.
I can't handle the change. I can't handle it.
I'm scared of change.
My head's gonna explode. Now, Gabriel Sherman, the guy who first reported on Ailes and then reported on Bill O'Reilly and some of the other stuff at Fox News, and he works for New York Magazine. He reported on Thursday last week that Murdoch's sons, James and Lachlan. I'm sorry, I said that already. Let me get to this part about the tweets. Right. In recent days, per source, there's talk among Fox News women about circulating a petition inside the network calling for Shine's firing. Again, that happened last week. Obviously, turns out, hey, they really didn't need to. They were going to get rid of the guy. Gone. Likely, I think that he was pressured to resign or encouraged, I guess, to step down, probably with lots and lots of money, just like Bill O'Reilly. And the other one, as far as Fox News co-hosts are concerned, or other hosts, Fox News talent, I put that those quotations there. Stunned by the news of Shine's exit, I have no idea what is going on, one host had told him. Well, I know what's going on. It's new management. The Murdoch sons are reportedly, and I'm not sure if this is entirely true, but this is what I read in some other reports, they're slightly more liberal than their father, if that says anything. Right? Slightly. And again, I don't know. But the more important part of that is that they're looking to transform the network into something that's more, that's I guess, less Fox News and more CNN. Because obviously that's what the American people want. They want more CNN.
More CNN, man. We need more.
We need more CNN. No, we don't. Now look.
Again, interestingly enough, man, and I, I'm not necessarily defending CNN here, but out of the three networks, they have been the least frustrating. As of recent, I've been more frustrated by MSNBC, mostly because they're supposed to be on our side. They're really not. And a lot of the hysteria that they're doing is a great disservice. And I know we're going to talk about that more later, so I don't want to get too, I don't want to go off on a beaten path now. But CNN has actually been the least frustrating. Not to say they haven't been frustrating, but compared to the other two, CNN's been keeping the cleanest nose, at least what I've been paying attention.
Yeah, but it's the problem though that we've always had with CNN is not that they do bad reporting, is that they're more corporate, right? They try to play things too much down the
Sure.
middle, and that they're not as factual, right? I mean, they're not. It's more of a false equivalence thing, and that's the problem. As far as, I mean, not really them. I don't. I'm not saying that they're not factual. They don't do factual reporting. They do, but they do too
Okay.
much in trying to promote the other side as well to avoid being labeled as liberal. So
Right.
that's
Yeah,
my
they're
issue with
not.
them.
Yeah, they're not objective. They're neutral, and
Yes,
they give this equal lip service. I mean, I would say that all the networks are guilty of that, though, except for Fox News. And the only reason they're not guilty of that is because they have this ridiculous right wing slant.
or that's
I
what
mean, I think
they
MSNBC
had.
does the same thing. And there was
Sure.
actually a clip recently, to your point, that really points to that, where they had this on CNN. They had this climate change skeptic
I think I covered
that
that.
was talking about was talking about how the Earth is getting greener, climate change is a hoax, blah blah blah. And then they had Bill Nye talking to the guy, and Bill Nye kind of called CNN out. We did this clip on the Jimmy Dore show. Bill
Yep.
Nye called CNN out, and he said, "Look, it's ridiculous that you guys are making this false equivalency as if there's just like the science community is split. If you were being responsible, you'd have this one skeptic over here." That and then you would also point out, you would follow the money trail to find out where this guy's paycheck's coming from,
Mm-hmm.
because usually that says it all.
Right.
And then you would have not just Bill Nye, but about 98 or 99 other scientists, because that's about the amount of dissent in the scientific community. It's about 1%, and it's the scientists that are, compensated by ExxonMobil, that are compensated by the oil and gas companies. And, when you talk to anybody in the science community that's not compromised by something like that, it's laughable. I mean, like my cousins are both scientists, and they politically they're a little more moderate than I am, and we've
Sure.
talked about living wages and stuff like that. And they always, I'll bring up some statistics, they'll bring up other statistics, and they'll be like, well, you got to take statistics with a grain of salt, because there's still people in the science community that think climate change isn't real. Like it's an arguing point for them to expose something ridiculous, like by saying, like, well, there's still some people that think climate change isn't real in the science. Like it's laughable to them. Like they know
Right.
those people are corrupt corporate hacks,
Right.
even when they're a little more conservative leaning, as my cousins are.
And of course, we lost. This is a great first segment. We just lost Ron Placone, so I'll have to get him back here in a second. So I hate it when that happens. This will lead to lots and lots of editing. All right. It's been a long time since that happened, by the way. Technology, man. All right, we're still trying to get Ron back. Then he can finish this point. It is one of those days. Let me try this again. In here. One more time. Sad indeed.
Hey, man.
Hey,
Sorry, we froze up there. All right,
yeah,
are we back?
yeah,
How's the
we're back.
interview?
Sorry about that. It Skype crashed.
Okay.
So
Yeah, it froze up and I wasn't able to spawn to the go button.
sad.
Dude, I feel like I'm not, I just started this bizarre diet yesterday. I started the Whole 30. Do you know what the Whole 30 is?
I have no idea.
So the Whole 30 is this thing where you can only eat whole foods, not the store, the
I was
thing.
gonna say.
Um, so like I'm eating fruits and vegetables and meats, and that's like literally all I'm eating. Um, and I'm just like I can't have any pasta, I can't have any carbs, I can't have any like nothing. So it's just kind of yeah, it's just kind of awful.
I'm
No
into whole
joy.
food. I'm into fitting whole things of food in my mouth, like whole
I'm
pieces,
envious of
like
you.
whole pizzas and whole tacos.
Yeah, man, I'm a little envious. Yeah, no booze either.
Oh,
So no booze
sad.
for a month. Yeah, and you're supposed to do it for like a whole like it's called the Whole 30 because you're supposed to do it for a
For
month,
30 days.
and
Yeah.
then yeah, 30 days, and then when you reintroduce these foods into your diet, you're supposed to see like what happens. Like do you feel shitty? Do you feel good? Do you feel just okay? How do you feel? So I'm gonna like reintroduce pasta, whatever, and then maybe I won't be, because pasta is like a food group for me, which
Yeah, I know, right?
isn't great. So maybe I won't like it as much after this thing's over. Like maybe my body will be like, dude, maybe just pasta once or twice a week's enough, not like 4 or 5 times a week, which is probably about what I have it now. So yeah, that's the point of it. We'll see how this thing goes. I don't
Yeah,
know.
you'll
But anyway,
probably
like I feel like I'm like kind of loopy because of it. It's so bizarre. Like whenever I want to get something to eat, it's like, oh, I'll have a bowl of cereal, and it's like, oh wait, no, I can't eat that. I can't eat dairy. I can't eat like just all this stuff I can't eat.
that sounds
So
like
anyway.
hell. Like that's my
Well, we'll
version of
see.
hell.
You know what? I'll say I say this. It was my girlfriend's idea. This was her idea. Because I
Oh,
guess apparently she said this would be a good thing to do as a couple, which I don't know. I don't know why people do that. Like it doesn't make sense to me. Like, hey, we're dating and it's really fun. Let's let's be miserable every time we eat a meal.
let's be
let's
miserable together.
let's see if that helps our camaraderie. And but you know what? I will say this, Jeff. The purpose of the diet is to lose a little bit of weight, and it's only
Sure.
been one day, and I'm proud to report I've already lost two friends. So that's that's how it's
Fantastic.
going. Not really.
Anyway,
I didn't actually lose two friends, not that I know of, but I have complained about this diet a lot, so it's possible, and it has only been one day. Back to the show.
back to their regularly scheduled program. Did you want to finish your thought on the story, or
I
um,
think I was pretty much finished. I'm not sure exactly where I got cut
you
off
got cut
though.
off
So
like right in the middle?
do you remember like the last thing I said?
No, I do not.
Sorry, I know
So I
that's like,
guess we
but
can
yeah,
just go
I'm not
on
sure
and
exactly where I got cut off. I mean, my point was like that video, Bill Nye's point, which was a good one, was that, the science community, it's pretty much 99% consensus
sure.
that climate change is real. The people that dissent from that are the people that are getting funded by the oil and gas companies, the people that are
Yeah,
compromised,
yeah,
because, you can still be a great scientist and still be corrupt. That's very possible.
sure.
And I was, the example that I also pointed out was like my cousins that are a little more conservative leaning than myself. I mean, I wouldn't say they're conservative; they're fairly moderate, but they, even in them, it's like a joke when you talk about scientists that don't acknowledge climate change.
Sure.
So even among the more conservative scientists, of course, climate change is going on. So it's beyond bogus to deny climate change at this
Right.
point. But our corporate media gives lip service to these dissenting fringe views, which are just corporate views, really, because they're getting a paycheck,
Hmm.
and they make it out as if there's an actual debate where really there isn't. And Bill Nye pointed that out on CNN recently.
Right, and that's the overall point that we're getting to is that you have these false equivalencies on CNN. So do we really need Fox News to become another CNN? I mean, if they're still going to do the same thing, right now they're giving an excessive voice to those people, right? And afterwards, they're still going to give a voice to those people, but they'll try to balance it out. You know what I mean? So really, is this going to be that big of a change? That big of a difference?
I
It's still
don't
going to be
think there's
crap.
a huge difference. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think there's a huge difference between Fox News and CNN. I would say that CNN has slightly more integrity compared to Fox News. I
Well,
would
sure.
definitely say that. But I mean, Jesus, man, we're considering, we're comparing vomit to a turd sandwich, really. I mean, so,
It's essentially where
what are
we're
you gonna
going.
do?
So, well, but there is a good side to this, and I think if Fox News tends to go into more quote unquote centrist, more corporate direction, and away from hardcore conservatism, well, the country isn't exactly in the mood for centrism, as we've shown. We had a whole election about that, by the way, and centrism was roundly rejected, and Clinton was roundly rejected, and I think you can agree with me, Ron, when I say that it's not so much that Donald Trump won, it's that Hillary Clinton lost. I mean, there was a recent survey, I'll cover it more in depth in the show tomorrow, conducted by Priorities Action USA, and it found that among former Obama voters that turned over to vote for Donald Trump, 30% of them said, hey, man, we didn't vote for Donald Trump, we voted against Hillary Clinton. A large chunk of them. So this was less of a victory for Donald Trump and more of a loss for the establishment and establishment politics and centrism. So go ahead and continue to go that route. Mainstream corporate media, that's only going to help us. That's only going to help us progressive channels, progressive shows. Like the Jimmy Dore Show, like this show, like the Young Turks, et cetera, et cetera. So go ahead. We'll just snap up that audience. So there you go. That's the good news. So let's talk about MSNBC since we're on the same topic. Now, it might be a surprise to some of you out there when I say that MSNBC is not and has not been a progressive network for a very long time. Wait a minute. How dare you pick on MSNBC? They've got Rachel Maddow. They've got Chris Hayes. They got all these guys. They're so progressive. No, they're actually not progressive. In fact, MSNBC for the last, few years, a decade maybe, or maybe not decade, but for a very long time, they've been veering off to the right. Now, for some example to that, I go to TYT reporter Ryan Grimm. Now, he recently wrote an article in the Huffington Post where he points out that MSNBC seems to be not only veering off to the right in some of their commentary, but also hiring a lot of conservative commentators directly from Fox News. Now, and of course, previous conservative administrations. One of them, of course, is Nicole Wallace. Now, Nicole Wallace was a former spokeswoman for George W. Bush, and then and also in the 2008 presidential campaign of John McCain and Sarah Palin. So she was out there basically helping bring Sarah Palin out to the masses. Wonderful. Now, New York Magazine also reported that conservative activist and radio host Hugh Hewitt, who has like an audience of like 3 people, is now, since he's already a regular contributor to MSNBC, is now in talks about getting a weekend show with MSNBC. That's crazy, isn't it? Now, Grimm said, that looks kind of odd from the outside, right? You got a liberal network, supposedly liberal network, now hiring conservative commentators in the era of Trump, where there is the most resistance. In fact, this is what he writes about what's happening inside. Quote, from inside, the news about Wallace and Hewitt was seen as just 2 more steps towards full execution of the vision of Andy Lack, the NBC News executive who oversees MSNBC. He has made quite clear his plan to move the cable news network away from its bedrock liberalism and towards a more centrist approach, personified by Brian Williams, even including hosts of a conservative bent, as typified by hosts like Megyn Kelly or Greta Van Susteren, who Lack brought over from Fox News. Yes, please, MSNBC, be more centrist. That's exactly what the country is just dying for. Right? That's
Uh-huh.
rhetorical question.
Well, what's interesting is that they don't even point out, but the people that were supposed to be um, on the left have really gone. They've really changed. And I'll use two examples, and I know we've talked about both of them before, but Chris Hayes
Yep.
and Rachel Maddow. I mean,
Yep.
Chris Hayes, there's this trend on MSNBC now to go after other people on the left. If you're a corporate establishment Democrat, let's go after other people on the left. Let's go after Susan Sarandon. Let's go after Josh Fox. People that are actually doing amazing work.
Yeah.
People that actually are putting out content into the world that is grossly important. I mean, Gasland up until his recent movies, Josh Fox has been doing some amazing things.
Mm-hmm.
Susan Sarandon doesn't have to do any of the shit she's doing. But she's been out there on the front line. She's been at protests. She's been, she has her issues. She knows her stuff. She sticks to her convictions, and she doesn't let corporate media hacks bully her. And I applaud her for that. And she refused to go on MSNBC without Josh Fox.
Right.
She refused to do it. And she gets shamed for it, and she gets smeared for it by people that are quote unquote supposed to be on the left. And then you have Rachel Maddow, who has literally gone insane over the Russia hysteria, which at this point, it's xenophobic hysteria. That's what it is. I'm not saying that there should be no investigation whatsoever or that there's absolutely nothing to it, but I'm saying that there's no concrete evidence that any voting machines were hacked. And I've said this so much, it feels like a broken record at this point. How much fucking time do you need? How much time do you need? I'll be the first person to say if there was actual collusion, if results were tampered with, then yeah, this election was tarnished. That's an offense, and we need to totally redo the election, and Donald Trump should be in jail. Absolutely. But how much fucking time do you need to prove something? They've been investigating it nonstop, talking about it nonstop, to the point where it is Red Scare Part 2. How much time do you need? If there's no evidence, maybe nothing's there. Maybe, it's no surprise that Putin and the people in power wanted Trump to win.
Sure.
Two corporate assholes being friends is not news. And the Clinton Foundation's had some ties with Russia too. Furthermore, why are ties to foreign superpowers only a big deal if it's Russia? That's xenophobia. That's excessive nationalism. And guess what? Real life isn't a fucking James Bond movie. Rachel Maddow parrots that hysteria constantly. Why? Because her ratings are blowing up because of it. Why? Because fear sells. Why is MSNBC subtly pro-war? Well, gee, they were funded by General Electric for years and years and years. That's why people like Brian Williams will tell you how beautiful our weapons look and how beautiful the drones are. And they use that to justify totally preemptive, inappropriate actions in Syria that Obama did the same bullshit. Now Trump's doing it. And Trump's a sociopath and a psycho, and we're applauding him for some of this shit. We're applauding him for the Syria shit, and we're supposed to be on the left? Are you kidding me? So yeah, MSNBC's not just going more centrist because of the personalities they're bringing in. The personalities they have that are supposed to be on the left are failing miserably. And that's why MSNBC is even more frustrating right now than CNN, and they're almost getting into the Fox News realm, because they're supposed to be on the side of the left, but that is not the left. That is the establishment left that is dwindling in numbers, that are dwindling in popularity, and they're just smoke and mirrors because they have spineless, leaderless shills like Tom Perez as their talking heads, and Nancy Pelosi, who not only can't form a basic sentence, but if you heard her talking about George W. Bush recently, she suffers from amnesia. Apparently, she doesn't remember what happened between 2000 and 2008. Apparently, she doesn't remember any of that when she recounts the Bush years. So if she has some medical condition, I wish she would just come clean about that and step down from her position that she is grossly unqualified for. So yeah, MSNBC is at best the channel for establishment Democrats, which is not progressive, and at worst, they're just more right-wing talkers.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when it comes to MSNBC, again, they're not tied to any really real political ideology. The difference, I think, between MSNBC and Fox News knew what they wanted to be from the outset, right? They wanted to be a conservative propaganda arm for the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
MSNBC just wants corporate money. That's it. All they are is a business. They want more and more corporate sponsors. They want more and more corporate money. And that's why they're moving in this direction. That's why they're moving away from being a progressive network. And the funny thing about this, right? You said about the ratings. It's actually funny. Grimm writes about how the ratings for all the conservative commentators and the so-called straight news stuff has actually dwindled, while you hit on something very important for yourselves, right? Chris Hayes, Rachel Maddow have actually seen, and Lawrence O'Donnell have actually seen their ratings increase since Trump got into office. So that's very interesting on that front. In fact, Grimm writes on this, lack in seeking to make his vision a reality has an unusual problem for a TV executive. Sky-high ratings. Since the election of Trump, MSNBC's liberal primetime programs, hosted by Chris Hayes, Rachel Maddow, and Lawrence O'Donnell, has surged not just in ratings, but in the share of cable news audience they're capturing. In its earnings call on Thursday, NBC Universal specifically cited the boost in ratings to the Rachel Maddow show for a spike in profit. Maddow has been running the top show in cable news and the key demographic for 2 months running, an inconceivable achievement at MSNBC. Now, look, a lot of this I think has to do with the anti-Trump sentiment, right? And the fact that they're trying to look. You can't deny that within Hillary Clinton Democrats, right? That demographic that voted for her believe in this Russia thing, right? And they want to see Trump get impeached, which I think is a ridiculous idea. Because what are we going to do? We're going to have President Mike Pence, which is scarier. I'd rather have the big clown that gets all the media attention and all the resistance against him there, instead of quiet Mike Pence, who looks like a normal person by comparison, but he is not. He is by far not a normal person. He's actually worse. This is a guy that in Indiana wanted to mandate that women who get abortions have to have funerals for their fetuses, even miscarriages. You must have a funeral for the fetus, state mandated. That's scary shit. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he was. All you need to say.
He's not a normal person.
This guy was too conservative for Indiana.
Yeah.
And you know what? Hey, I went to IU, so not just any Indiana folks don't take it, but that state has a lot of a lot of backwards politics. Sure. I lived in the Blue Dot. I lived in Bloomington. I went to IU, so there's definitely a lot of progressives in Indiana too. But as a whole, the state's pretty backwards. Mike Pence was too conservative for that state as a whole. That says a lot.
Mm-hmm. That does say a lot. So, but anyway, Maddow and all of them have actually been getting good ratings due to their focus on attacking Trump with the whole Russia thing. Of course, Hayes has been doing more Bernie Sanders style things, like town halls and stuff, and covering that. So that might also explain a little bit of a boost in his ratings. But the whole thing is that and Grimm mentions it, that jeopardizes that new direction, that let's go to the centrist and get more corporate money, because we want more conservative commentators. We don't want the liberal commentators. We want to go to where the money is. So I think that's what that's all is about. See, he's not a conservative. He's not a liberal. He's a businessman. That's all they care about at MSNBC. They care about that money. So, and there is money. Seems to be more money in being a corporate Democrat at this point than a far right or what they would call far left, which really isn't all that far left. The advertisers want people like Hugh Hewitt and Greta Van Susteren. That's what they want. And they want less focus on progressive policies. So not only that, but Grimm writes, tossing those primetime hosts overboard when they're raking in viewership and revenue has so far proved an elusive task. Now, this is funny because this is an insider from MSNBC. Quote, Hayes, Maddow, O'Donnell, the entire primetime lineup is doing record numbers, and Lack can't stand it. It makes him furious. That's funny. I find that, I guess I find that hilarious, because this is somebody who gets mad at high ratings because he wants to be more conservative and get more money.
Right, right, right.
which is
Well,
again hilarious.
well, you bring up the whole town hall thing, and
Yeah.
the reason they're doing that is just because of Bernie Sanders' popularity. They're
Mm-hmm.
just trying to milk him, and
For money.
it's a little frustrating because on the campaign trail they showed Donald Trump's empty
Empty
podium
podium.
instead of showing Bernie Sanders'
Absolutely.
rallies. But now all of a sudden he is the most popular politician in the country. Yes, he is, and so they're trying to milk that now. And they're not really doing it a ton of justice in the way they're portraying it. Now, what's beautiful out of all that is the footage is out there for people to draw their own conclusions, and it's saying something very loud when Bernie Sanders gets introduced. I'm referring to the Unity tour now. When
Mm-hmm.
Bernie Sanders gets introduced and people are cheering and screaming and applauding and standing up, Tom Perez then gets booed.
Yeah.
They boo Tom Perez, and deservedly so. That guy has no business being where he is. I've said this. Having Tom Perez lead a political party is like having Stephen Hawking lead a choir. Um, and you may have heard that on the Jimmy Dore show, by the way, but I'm allowed to use it too because I wrote it for the show. But anyway, the thing is that that's saying something, and that's saying that this is the platform that needs to be adopted. I think that the Democrats have to adopt that platform at this point. I don't know if they're going to or not, but if they're not, then 2018 needs to be the deadline for folks. And the optimist in me is hoping that that's Bernie Sanders'
Mm-hmm.
plan. I hope that he wants to see what happens in 2018 so that they can have a blue wave to kind of like keep Trump in check. And I
Right.
understand that. But I'm hoping that if the Democrats don't step in line by 2018, Bernie Sanders goes, that's it. And he goes over to draft Bernie, and we get a new third party. I'm hoping it happens regardless, but I'm hoping that 2018 is kind of the deadline of we're going to try to work within the system. And, that's not to say I support what Justice Democrats are doing. I support what Brand New Congress is doing. I look forward to voting for their candidates. I look forward to voting for those Democrats, and I look forward to voting for, other candidates as well. But, in the Green Party and what have you. But, I think that the movement's got to become completely separate from the Democratic Party if they still don't adopt Bernie's platform come 2018, and if
Yeah.
Justice Democrats aren't successful in getting some of these corporate dinos out of there.
Well, yeah, that would be that would make sense to me. That if you're not going to change the actual party or be able to win these primaries, then yeah, you would have to come up with something because Americans will not allow the status quo to continue, one way or the other,
And the
and we
Democrat, I mean,
shouldn't.
they have no platform. And that's the other thing. There's all this footage out there now of people asking Tom Perez, of people asking Nancy Pelosi, do you support single payer health care? And instead of just saying yes or no, at least having the balls to say no, you hear these empty platitudes, this empty bullshit. Tom Perez will try to spin it to, hey, we're not Trump, because that's the only selling point that guy has. They can't answer it directly. We had Sally Boynton Brown on our show. We had Sally Boynton Brown on the Jimmy Dore show. She could not answer those questions
Mm-hmm.
directly from Jimmy. I mean, we're sitting there. I mean, I was behind the board, like going, please, because she's such a sweet woman and she's so likable, and I think her heart's in the right place. Um, she couldn't answer the question. It's like, what do you stand for, Sally? She couldn't answer it, and that's why they're failing. That's not leadership. That's not leadership.
Oh, you mean leading from behind is not leadership? No way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. We learn something new every day, right? But I mean, getting back to, I think this does apply to MSNBC as well because they don't stand for anything other than money, and that's the whole problem with corporate media these days is that they don't stand for anything more than a profit, so they're going to do everything they can to get that money. When really, like, if you're going to call yourself, and they've backed away from this, at least they backed away from this, from calling themselves a progressive network, then maybe you should be progressive. But there is no liberal progressive network on TV anymore. They're all either turning into CNN or Fox News Light or, yay establishment. And the only places left are independent media, independent progressive media. So,
yeah. I mean, I think in a lot of ways it's always been that way. But, now more so than ever before. And we're going to see a huge uptick. I mean, Air America was created in response to the Bush years, right? And, all these other things. That's happening. I mean, we're already seeing, granted, YouTube kind of threw a wrench in things, and we're still kind of figuring that out. But, a lot of channels are growing. Your channel's growing. My channel's growing. The Jimmy Dore Show channel's growing. Secular Talk's growing, et cetera, et cetera. Humanist Report. I think a lot of us are collaborating more and more now, which I think is a great thing.
Yep.
And I think that there's going to be more cohesion. I don't know if there's going to be like a more wide-scale network that's going to happen next, but something's going to happen next.
And there needs to, because we're all in this together, and we all should continue to work together, because I think that's the best way.
Yeah, I apologize for the vagueness of that comment too. By the way, something's going to happen next.
Something.
Ron Placone.
Something someday.
That's what something someday. Something's going to happen at some point somewhere.
Somewhere. Watch for it, and then when something does happen, I will take credit. Anyway. Okay, so do you want to do the DNC lawsuit next, or Dianne Feinstein lawsuit, or Trump?
DNC lawsuit.
DNC lawsuit. Oh, this will be interesting. I'm sure you have a lot of opinions on this. Now, recently the class action lawsuit against the DNC was heard in court. Now, you have lawyers on behalf of some Bernie Sanders supporters that are basically saying, hey, we donated to Bernie Sanders. We expected a fair primary. They say that that the DNC screwed them out of the nomination, or screwed Bernie Sanders out of the nomination and them out of their money by not being impartial, and essentially rigging the primary against Bernie Sanders. Now, originally, Jordan Sheridan broke this story. He's TYT Politics reporter, and it's since been picked up elsewhere. Now, the argument from the DNC's lawyers actually comes from a transcript of the court proceedings from April 28th. Now, what we find in these transcripts is essentially the DNC trying to justify the violation of its own rules. Now, this is interesting. The DNC charter, Article 5, Section 4, reads, in the conduct and management of the affairs and procedures of the Democratic National Committee, particularly as they apply to the preparation and conduct of the presidential nomination process, the chairperson, which at the time was Debbie Wasserman Schultz, shall exercise impartiality and even-handedness as between the presidential candidates and campaigns. The chairperson shall be responsible for ensuring that the national officers and staff of the Democratic National Committee maintain impartiality and even-handedness during the Democratic Party presidential nomination process. Now, Ron, we know, because we've read about this, WikiLeaks, etc., that was definitely not the case. There was not even-handedness during the DNC primary from any of the officials. I mean, you had Donna Brazile getting caught passing questions to Hillary Clinton from CNN while she was a contributor. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, of course, now disgraced for, siding for, basically shielding for Hillary Clinton, right? And you even had Tom Perez, who also in WikiLeaks was saying, like, hey, I know, let's use Bernie Sanders, the fact that he's a Jewish person, against him. Mm-hmm. All of those people, now in very high positions in the DNC, by the way, going for Hillary Clinton, not at all being even-handed. So they were all in the tank for Clinton. And now, of course, the DNC's attorney tried to justify this by claiming that their rules were discretionary. Oh, our rules? We don't have to follow those rules. We wrote them. We said we were going to abide by them, but we were just kidding. We're not going to follow our own rules. Are you kidding me? fair primary. What do you mean? This is essentially them admitting that we had no intention to allow a fair contest between Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, and therefore you should have known that. You should have known that we were in the tank, so therefore we don't have to give you your money back. That's essentially what this boils down to.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, which is remarkable. Where they're like, "Oh, you
really
expected us to play fair? Well, go fuck yourself."
Yeah, we're gonna keep your money.
Yeah, we're gonna keep your money, and then we're gonna talk about how Trump didn't play fair, even though we don't have any concrete evidence, and we're inciting a bunch of xenophobia that could lead to a war.
Well, right now, to be fair, we're too busy on focused on North Korea now, as well as Russia. So,
well,
yeah.
I mean, it depends on what camp you're sitting in.
Sure.
I mean, it's either it's hyperbole, pretty much nonsense on either side, but either way, it's equally scary. And the dude that has access to the codes is a sociopath that could accidentally drop a bomb instead of just getting himself a Coca-Cola.
Oops. Now, the attorneys representing the DNC have previously argued that Sanders supporters, and I alluded to this earlier, they knew that the primaries were rigged ahead of time, therefore annulling any potential accountability the DNC may have. In the latest hearing, they doubled down on that argument, saying that the court would have to find that people who fervently supported Bernie Sanders and who purportedly didn't know that this favoritism was going on would not have given to Senator Sanders, if they had known that there was this purported favoritism. So saying that if you gave money, you had to have known that they had favored Hillary Clinton in the first place, and that they gave anyway knowing that. Well, that's an interesting argument. It is kind of right out in the open, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the attorney representing Bernie Sanders said, or I'm sorry, not Bernie Sanders, but the Sanders supporters that are suing said, quote, people paid money in reliance on the understanding that the primary elections for the Democratic nomination process in 2016 were fair and impartial. And that's not just just a bedrock assumption that we would assume just by virtue of the fact that we live in a democracy. And we assume that our elections are run in a fair and impartial manner. But that's what the Democratic Party, again, that's what their own charter says. It says, and they can't deny that, not only is it in the charter, but it was stated over and over again in the media by the Democratic National Committee's employees, including Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, that they were, in fact, acting in compliance with the charter, and that they said it again and again, and we've cited several instances of that in the case. So basically what they're saying is that the DNC lawyers are saying we didn't actually have to follow that rule, and however, you had everybody from the DNC during the nominating process saying, we're following that rule. We're being completely fair and impartial, and we're not in the tank for Hillary Clinton. We're giving them both equal access, opportunity, etc. We're both treating them incredibly fairly, so you just need to get off our balls.
Mm-hmm.
But see, that's not what happened. Now, furthermore, one more here. Attorneys representing the DNC claim that the DNC would also be well within their rights to, quote, go into back rooms like they used to and smoke cigars and pick the candidate that way. Basically going back to the smoke-filled room. Well, if we wanted to, and I guess they could, since they're a private entity, do that. But that seems pretty shitty, especially for people who are new to the process, who gave in good faith, expecting the DNC to be impartial and fair, and to give Bernie Sanders a fair hearing. Well, they didn't do that. And so they really did screw people over. And I'm not saying like that Bernie Sanders would have won if they were fair and impartial, even though I personally believe that it would have happened. But all we can do is just say that we think that that's what might have happened. We'll never know because it never was fair to begin with. But what the DNC had done basically is that they said it was her turn. It was Hillary Clinton's turn. We're going to do everything we can to put the primary in favor of one candidate over the other to make sure they win. even elevating Donald Trump as a Pied Piper candidate, along with what they tried to do with Ted Cruz and Ben Carson, in order to make it easier for Hillary Clinton to win the general election after she, of course, uh, you know, got handed the primary. So this is a very interesting case. I mean, what are your thoughts about this?
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm definitely on board with you that the DNC acted incredibly corruptly throughout the primary. Um, and there's really been no accountability taken for that whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
There's been no talk of ending superdelegates. There's been no talk of basically what's happened there. There's been no apology to Bernie Sanders. There's been no reflection on did we handle this wrong. There's been no, I mean, I understand how, there's only so much productivity in saying, oh, Bernie would have won or this or that. But reflecting on what really happened is essential in forming a strong platform to move forward. That hasn't been done. Even though Bernie is in the party, he's the most popular politician in the country, and his platform still hasn't been adopted. Democrats want to have their cake and eat it too when it comes to Bernie Sanders. They want to milk his popularity. They want his email list. They want him to step in line, but they don't want to adopt anything that made him popular, which is what the people want. I mean, basically, the Democratic establishment says you report to us instead of we report to the people.
Well,
Um,
and like
and
this
yeah, I
is
think there should be. I think that if that's not altered, there should be consequences because of it.
let me address that point for a minute there, with Bernie Sanders being incredibly popular and the DNC not wanting to change. So, what's the DNC's reaction? Well, I mean, through the media, they have really been ramping up attacks on Bernie Sanders. They've been ramping up attacks in corporate media. There's been Slate that has been writing articles, negative articles against him, and people who support him. And there's also been Washington Post articles going after his supposedly strange behavior. I mean, all these hatchet job articles going on, it sort of is reminiscent of being back in the primary. That's their answer to this. Instead of changing their position to going what's popular with most of the country, because that's why Bernie Sanders is popular. It's not popular because he's the best orator, like former President Barack Obama. He's not popular because he's a good-looking politician like Paul Ryan or something like that. Remember his P90X bullshit or whatever? Like everybody's like, oh my God, look at Paul Ryan, Young Guns, right? And he turned out to be a complete sociopath.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Then he speaks.
Yeah, then he actually says things, and everyone's like,
He
"Holy
opens his
shit, this
mouth.
guy's insane," and he's a dick. And Bernie Sanders isn't popular for any other reason other than the fact that he just talks about issues that people care about, and that are
Yeah, it's
popular with
it's
them.
his
That's it.
platform that's popular.
It's not
That's why.
him. It's the
Yeah, you know what?
platform. It's
Let
the
me say this
policy.
because I have some people, I know some people that are in the Hillary camp, and they're friends of mine that we agree on a lot of things, but there's a few things that we are really on opposite sides of the fence of right now. And whenever they get on me and then they say, "Well, Bernie did this. This Bernie supported, this pro-life person in Nebraska that's
Which
very
isn't the whole
anti-choice."
story.
Well, yeah. Well, so first of all, so did Tom Perez and Keith Ellison. Second of all, why weren't you outraged about Tim Kaine? But anyway, let's not go down that horse because we talked about that before. But my response has always been, look, I don't have to agree with everything Bernie's done. I don't agree with everything Bernie Sanders has done.
Absolutely.
And I'm curious what his future plans are. And if his plans are, well, I'm just going to stay within the system. And I was like, well, I don't even agree with that strategy because I
Mm-hmm.
think eventually he's going to have to go over to draft Bernie. And I'm hoping, like I said previously, I hope 2018 is his deadline. I hope 2018, if they're still stringing him along, he says, you know what? Fuck you guys. I'm taking my popularity and I'm going over to this party, and you guys are going to have to come to us because you will never win another election without us. It doesn't matter how much donor money you get, and we have a big, big base on our side. 42% of the country already identifies as independent anyway. less and less people are
Hmm.
identifying with the Democratic Party. They are slowly becoming a thing of the past,
Oh,
and they are
because
doing nothing to help themselves. They are just putting nails in the coffin.
and it's because they're out of
Whether
touch. Most
they're
even
grossly
even
out of
Democratic
touch.
voters, even Democratic voters, self-identified Democrats are like the party is out of touch. They are more for the wealthy and for the elite, and we are not in favor of that. Again, I go back to that uh, uh, survey done by Priorities Action USA. That's a super PAC that backed Hillary Clinton, and they talked to people who were former Obama voters, voted in 2012 for Obama, and either didn't vote at all or voted for Donald Trump. And a majority of them said we didn't vote for the Democrats because they are out of touch. The Republicans, we also think Republicans are out of touch, but Trump with his, and I know you're going to say, oh, it's not really populism, but there was a little bit of economic populism involved, along with the racism, etc. In
Hmm.
Trump's message, and at least it was incredibly vague, and would just go on about how the Washington politicians, man, they suck. That happened to resonate with people because guess what? Washington politicians do suck, and
Yeah,
nobody wants anything to do with them. And of course, Hillary Clinton, the consummate Washington politician, sucked, and she lost.
but
So,
well, the thing I was getting.
goddamn, we had another Skype crash. I promise this is not me doing that. This is Skype exploding again. Good lord. Um, let me get Ron back. Goddamn, this has been a disaster of a show today. I apologize for everybody, but technical difficulties. Can't win them all. Um, all right. Let's try this again.
Hey, man, it happened
Failed.
again.
Sad.
All right.
It was
Well,
you were just gonna make your point, so go ahead.
yeah. All right. So what I was gonna say was, the biggest thing that I've had when like Hillary, well, I disagree with this and Bernie. I don't agree with everything Bernie does either, but I like Bernie's platform. That's a sentence that I can say that a Hillary supporter cannot say because Hillary has no platform. She had no platform. She's doing nothing now, and that's kind of that extends over to the Democrats. Who can say, well, I don't agree with everything the Democrats do, but I stand behind their platform? What platform would that be? Because, I mean, I go to Democrats.org all the time to make sure that I'm not out of line for saying this stuff. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's just platitudes. It's just bullshit. And if you read between the lines, they don't actually endorse the Fight for 15. They dance around it. They don't actually endorse it. They do not endorse single payer health care. That's very clear. Debbie Wasserman Schultz will make that clear to you. Tom Perez cannot answer that question. Nancy Pelosi cannot answer that question.
Dianne
They
Feinstein.
don't they don't do shit about student loan debt. They don't give a shit. That's not even on the ballot. They're really not doing anything. I mean, they're basically just Republicans that are okay with gay people. That's the Democratic Party at this point.
Well,
Um,
when you
I'd prefer
ask,
Republicans that are okay with gay people over homophobic Republicans, yeah, but you need a little more than that if you're in a two-party system. You need to have an actual platform. They don't have one. You know who does have a platform? Bernie Sanders and people like him. Bernie Sanders has a platform. You ask Bernie Sanders what he believes in, what he wants, he'll give you concrete plans. Jill Stein has a platform. Tulsi Gabbard has a platform. These people have platforms. A lot of the progressives endorsed by Justice Democrats, endorsed by Brand New Congress, they have a platform. They have plans for their communities, actual plans. They don't just say nice things, they have actual plans. The Democrats do not have that. Hillary Clinton did not have that. And guess what? If you don't have that, you know what you do? You lose. And you continue to lose. And we're tired of losing. So you know what? When the DNC tries to scapegoat Bernie Sanders and this and that, there's nothing to scapegoat here because this is a policy that people stand behind. Bernie Sanders is that popular because of his policy. He's not popular
mm,
because he's an older 75-year-old Jewish senator from Vermont with messy hair, but he has a platform that inspired a lot of people. that
Right.
continues to inspire a lot of people, and he's the most popular politician in the country. So yeah, as far as what happens with the DNC, I would like to see them be held accountable for this, and most importantly of all, other than the money game, I'd like to see them finally adopt Bernie Sanders' platform. And if they don't do that, it's over. I mean, it is over. My personal deadline as a voter is 2018. I'm definitely still willing to vote for some of the Justice Democrats. I'm still willing to vote for some of the progressives, still trying to work from within. I'd gladly cast a vote for Ro Khanna. I'd gladly cast a vote for Sam Ronan. I'd gladly cast a vote for Bernie, obviously, Tulsi Gabbard. But as far as, I mean, if it's just continued platitude corporate bullshit, 2018 is the deadline because we can't take any more of this.
Right, and
And
it's not just like, and we want to get it clear to Hillary Clinton voters, right? It's not just this crazy progressive wing. Even Hillary Clinton supporters support 80% of Democrats, for example, support single payer health care. 80%, over 80% of Democrats. That includes Hillary Clinton voters. That is that is an incredible amount of popularity. And this isn't some old poll. This is polling from the Washington Post. Okay, a Washington Post ABC News survey last week. 82% of I believe it was 82% of Democrats and over 46% of Republicans agree with Medicare for all. These are popular policies even among the party. Yet you ask these politicians, the Democratic politicians, whether or not they will stand for this, it will give you an answer like Dianne Feinstein and say, well, I don't want a government takeover of healthcare. You'd rather have a corporate takeover of healthcare because that's who funds your campaigns. That's why. So, the Democratic Party, they need to get with it. And number one, I think the first thing you have to do is you have to admit that you've made mistakes. You have to admit what you've done wrong, the problems that you have inside the party. If you're going to have any chance of even starting to fix it, that's if you even want to fix it, which I assume that they do not, because at this point, I believe that they are paid to lose. And at some point, losing is, well, it's going to stop being lucrative because after a while, people start to realize that maybe we don't like being losing on the losing team. We don't like being with the losers. So we're just going to let you lose and we're going to go do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Again, with being vague, whatever something else is,
something else
remains
is
to
going to
be
happen.
seen.
Theme for today's show.
Either there are different options, either replace them all or go to a new party. And I think both of those are going to be tried, and I'm in favor of both of those options. Because going and staying with the status quo is not an option. We've held down for too long. There are things that cannot wait. Climate change, health care, student loan debt, all those different issues, a minimum wage, a living wage. Those are issues that we can no longer afford to wait on. Something needs to be done, and it needs to be done now. And the DNC is on track to do nothing about any of that. Congratulations. They have just cemented their loss for the next 10 years. I swear. All right. Anyway,
Sounds good.
You wanna do one more story, or you gotta head out?
I gotta hop off actually.
Right.
Yeah.
Alrighty, sounds good, man. Thanks a lot. We'll do the rest of the stories tomorrow. We'll have a pretty good show. I've got more. I've got Dianne Feinstein. We got Trump talking about the First Amendment. I did want to talk about that story with you, but maybe we'll do it another time, or I'll just talk about
let's do it. Let's do it another time,
right.
Or we'll do a variation of it.
Sure. All right. Thanks, man. We'll see you guys later. Anything you want to plug before we go?
Next week, if there's any LA listeners, I'm gonna be doing one of my music shows at the Old Town Pub in Pasadena. It's where I do music and I play songs and I tell stories, and it's a lot of fun. And that's at Old Town Pub in Pasadena, 8 p.m. It is free. I know some of the folks that know me from TYT Nation have shown up. Some people that know me from the Jimmy Dore Show have shown up. So
nice.
That's next Monday at 8 p.m. May 8th, Old Town Pub, Pasadena, totally free. Yeah.
All right, cool, man. We'll see you
Thanks,
next
Jeff.
week.
All right. Cheers, man.
See ya. All right, everybody. That's it. That's all I got. I got a lot of editing to do to fix the technical issues in today's show. I do apologize for that, of course, but hey, man, tech shit happens. There's no way around that. So sometimes you're gonna have some fuck ups. So anyway, we'll have a good show tomorrow. We'll cover some of the stories that we didn't get to later on as well. So thank you, everybody, for going around the nation with me today. And Ron, of course. Ron Placone, of course, regular contributor here on TYT Nation. So, all right, guys. I'm out of here. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to the patrons. You guys will get the full show, of course. Patreon.com/TYT Nation. We're out of here. Love you guys. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, TYT Nation.